Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Dark Side of the Word, a weekly podcast for all the dark story lovers and creatives out there. My name is Kait, and I am here. I'm gonna cry.
Why?
I am here with. Oh, shit.
Did you forget it? Did you forget it?
One of them.
There was one of them. There's two.
Okay.
This is why we write things down.
Well, I thought of the third one going to the bathroom.
Well, that's a very lovely sentiment. Thank you. Glad to know that the toilet brought me to mind. I don't think you even need an adjective. I think that just says it all right there. We can skip right to talking about the book.
I feel like we should leave all that in.
We should totally leave this in. I'm okay. Still rolling.
All right, cool. Well, now that I remember,
I'm here with your toilet friend, CJ.
Okay, now on a serious note, that's going to make me cry. I am here with my best friend, my self-proclaimed sister,
oh God, fuck
my
you, man.
partner in crime, TJ.
God damn it, woman. I was not expecting that.
I said I was going to start crying.
I know, but still.
We were having this whole conversation about how we lived too far apart, like, right before we recorded this, and we were already getting upset, and so, like, I had this planned before that, okay?
And then she thought about me on the toilet, and it just all came bubbling to the surface. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Dark Side of the Word.
Well, you know you're a true friend when you can even go to the bathroom with them.
That is a line of friendship we have not crossed, and we never will cross, just to put that out there. I have not crossed that with my husband either.
Same. No, if you want the number one advice on how to keep a relationship together,
close your never go to the bathroom.
Yes, you never go to the bathroom in front of your partner.
Yeah, never leave some mystery between friends. It's helpful. Unless there's like a medical circumstance, then. But try your best. Try your best on your own. Really, it's for the good of your marriage.
Exactly. I swear that is what has kept us together for 15 years next month.
Two toilets, and no one's looking at the other while they're in one of them. All right, moving on.
Well, after all that, I just want to say it is the last Thursday of the month, which means it is time for book club. I hope that you have a warm drink, a comfy spot to sit, and you've read the book, because from here on out, there will be spoilers.
Do you want to tell them what the book is?
Yes. This month, we read Last to Leave the Room by Caitlin Starling.
I actually have it here with me this time. Look at that. My shiny library cover.
It's under my microphone.
It's okay. I'll hold it up for you. This is Kate's version right here.
That's the pretty cover. Okay, I'm just going to be ready.
Oh, that's the cover.
This is the cover. You forgot about the cat, didn't you?
I forgot that was for this book. Oh my God. Penrose.
You have the pretty
non-disturbing cover.
Which, now that I've read the book, I was really hoping it would be understandable why the cover looks like this, and like...
I don't know why. I mean, there's cats in the book, but they don't look like that. They don't act like that. Nothing acts like that. That is the most disturbing cat I have ever seen.
Yeah, so...
Again, that is the scariest thing on this podcast this year.
Why don't you show your cover again? Let them see the pretty cover.
This is the pretty cover.
Which I still don't understand.
You don't get this part?
No.
Really?
No.
All the different people? The doppelgangers?
The shadow thing?
It's the doppelgangers. She's down in the basement and the doppelgangers.
Gangers.
Because there could be more. Okay, let's get into talking about the book. I think we just lost like half the listeners right now. Got to get this pony back on track.
You lost me.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I hope that you hear it again. There are spoilers. Doppelganger is in the synopsis, so nothing isn't spoiled yet. So that was your last warning. From here on out, there will be spoilers. First up, I will read the synopsis I wrote.
Ooh,
I'm going to warn
this part.
Probably not my best, but
okay. We are our own worst critic, but go ahead.
Tamsin. Tamsin is on the edge of a breakthrough, a chance to change science. Her name will go down in history. But before she can achieve the unthinkable, her research comes to a halt at startling news. The city is sinking. Not a lot, just a little bit each day, so that before long, the city's infrastructure will begin to crumble beneath them. Could it be because of Tamsin's laboratory that was installed deep underground to remove all signal interference for her experiment? Tamsin wants to say no, but the strange keeps happening. Even her basement seems to be stretching. As the floor sinks, the walls grow taller, elongating the room. Tamsin can't discover how or why. Where is the matter coming from? And then one day a door appears out of nowhere. A door she can't open. A door she can't break. A door that magically lets through her doppelganger.
Ooh, dun dun dun.
Dun, dun,
Oh, that's it. That's it. Okay, that's a good cliffhanger for the description.
Okay.
I like it. I was expecting a little more about what the doppelganger does, but I like it. I like where you left it off. It's good. Good
find
suspense.
Some synopsises extend the description of the book. It's like movie trailers where they just keep going and you're like, you've told the whole story at this point. I didn't need to know that far into the plot.
And like just a doppelganger emerging, you're like, shit's about to hit the fan. You know, like you don't need anything more. Doppelganger shows up and boom, we're ready to party.
I mean, I guess the inciting incident in this book would technically be the news that the town is sinking. But in a way, it could also be when the door appears.
Yeah, I think her personal sinking is like when the doppelganger appears. You know, because that throws her little life into more turmoil. She can handle the city sinking. Can she handle her doppelganger? Who's to know?
All right. Well, as usual, we will start with our ratings of the book, which, as usual, I already know CJ's, but we'll let CJ go first. Because you don't.
Okay. So I gave Last to Leave the Room 4 stars, but I am very open to having my mind changed.
Okay.
Because I almost gave it 5 stars, but then I remembered how much I absolutely hated this book for about 200 pages, and that is what brought down the rating.
5
So
stars?
I have very mixed emotions about this book.
Okay.
It's a very good book for us to end the year on because it kept me guessing with my own emotions.
Well, I need to know what those 200 pages were. Okay. But would you like to guess my rating?
2. Up or down? Up or down? Down 1. Okay.
It shouldn't be a surprise if you're going to give it 5. I had to go in the
That's
complete
true.
opposite
That's
spectrum
true.
here.
That is true. I should just operate on that from now on.
Okay. What 200 pages did you hate?
The first 200 pages. I found, number 1, the first 2 pages were horribly dull and boring. I am an English major. There was a lot of science talk going on in there, a lot of science terms. I realize you, engineer friend, had probably a better grasp on all this, but I was just like the Peanuts people talking. Wah, 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 wah. I kind of glossed over it. I'm like, oh yeah, city sinking, blah, 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 blah. Chapter 3 is starting to get a little bit more interesting, but overall, I felt the first 200 pages, which, to let you know, is until basically Tamsin loses an eye, which we will get to later on. It's just repetitive, claustrophobic, which I can see how that kind of works, but just there's a lot of testing, interacting, and repeat. She doesn't do a lot. There's a lot of work anxiety, which made me very anxious about my own work that I do, like having a boss, having to report in. Is my report due? Do I have to check my emails? I was not here for that. And then it wasn't until Tamsin lost her fucking eye and I was like screaming in disgust in the middle of the night while I was reading that passage, and I was like, oh, it's finally getting good.
I don't disagree with you at the turning point in the book. Even though I have a science background, that first chapter was complete utter nonsense and stupid. I think that informing the reader that there is an issue, and then informing the reader that though this is going slow, we can quickly have ramifications of sewer line breaks, water breaks, crumbling infrastructure. Yes, those 2 points needed to be conveyed.
Yeah.
But even with the city sinking, it had any attack, like, it did nothing to do with the plot.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure why that all had to be in the book in the first place.
Her basement could have just been acting up without the city doing anything.
Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even realize that. It could have just been her basement being weird.
And then she could have still been having issues at work of her not being productive and showing up. They're on a breakthrough. Her boss is getting mad because he's bleeding money to have everyone there for as long as they are without anything. And that could have just, like, the point of them having a sinking city. Oh, well, hold on.
Well, hasn't Venice been sinking for like eons, and it's still there, or it's fine. People are still going there.
Well, what if it having all of the material suddenly appear is because of the combining of the multiverse versions, and so what's suddenly appearing in their town is the difference?
Okay, I could not compute all that. That was too much sci-fi and sci going on. No.
Okay, I was shocked at your rating because of how much sci-fi this book was.
So it reminded me a lot of The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, which I absolutely loved. And I was kind of getting very similar vibes off of it, which is why I think well, number one, I kept going because I had to, because it's for our podcast. Otherwise, I would have DNF'd this at page 50 immediately. Would have DNF'd it at page 2. But I kept going. And I kind of liked a little bit of the science behind it. But it just went into the weeds too often and too repetitively. Like, yes, I know the sewer lines are going to get fucked up. All this stuff is happening. We're all in a panic. It's very bad news. Let's move on. We could have condensed so much of those first 200 pages and gotten to the action much more quickly. Sometimes I can see... Sorry, go ahead.
Because this book was already short.
Was it? It felt very long. Once it got to page 200, I felt like it zipped along.
So the paperback is only 310 pages.
What is the hardback? We're at like not even 300. We're like at 290 something.
Yeah, that's a pretty quick book, especially for something with such a science heavy background that it's just like, yeah, we could have hurried up those 200 pages, but then where would the book be?
And there are some books where I can see the benefit of making it a very slow, repetitive introduction. Like if you take The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I like the book overall, but it took about 200 pages for me to really get into the story. And that was because the first 200 pages were, and if anybody, this isn't a spoiler, but the story is about a woman who basically sells her soul or whatever to the devil so she can live forever. And you see her starting off in 1700s, and then we meet her later on in the present day. But for those first 400 years of her life, no one remembers her. She goes through life, through all these major world events, with no one ever remembering who she is. And it's very monotonous, it's very dull, it's very repetitive, and it was driving me bonkers. But when she actually meets somebody who does remember her, you get how momentous this is because of how horribly dull it was beforehand. So I feel like there was a method to Schwab's madness with doing that and the monotony. And for this book, I can't see it. I don't see the point of making it so repetitive of, let's do some tests and let's have Prime cook something and let's do this and let's feed the cat again and let's talk to Lachlan. There was no need. There was no need.
Side tangent to the V. Schwab comment. V. Schwab is a self-proclaimed, very slow burn starts to her books. Okay. So that's her thing. She's like, if you can put up with it, be here, but this is who I am. But yes, it was so much. And to the point that I did not like the writing style whatsoever. And so that was another thing that made me slog through the beginning part of the book. Yeah. There was a huge cast of characters that she was just throwing names left and right to you at the beginning. Also very hard to wrap your head around when you're starting out a book.
Yes.
And then you're trying to learn the world as well. And there was no point in the book whatsoever that the experiment was properly described. Like, I think I pieced together what it's about, but I honestly don't see the average person being able to understand what she was doing.
I could not understand a lot of what she was doing, and I didn't really have an interest to focus in on it and figure it out either, which I think would have been helpful. If she made it can be hard, like Echo Wife, some of the things were hard to understand. It was a complex topic where she's making doppelganger wives, basically. But I was so intrigued by the concept and what was happening that I wanted to learn. I wanted to take in all that information. I did not feel that inclination here.
Well, and then on top of that, Tamsin was not someone I cared to read any lick or ounce about whatsoever. She was annoying. Honestly, every time she got hurt and the other person was going to take over, I was like, okay, fine, thank God. Like, I'm over this.
She didn't bother me too much. I like the fact that she had a cat. And for me, if somebody has a cat, they're redeemable in some way.
That's the cat.
I was very worried about the cat when we first met it. I'm like, something's going to happen to this fucking cat.
It did. Something did happen to the cat.
And we don't know exactly what happened to the original Penrose. I mean, we assume it's dead somewhere, but we don't know what actually happened to the first Penrose.
It went to the door. Supposedly.
Did it? Okay.
That's what they're implying. She's like, the door opened at some point.
Going back to the writing style, it got better for me as I kept reading, but again, in that first, 100 pages, 200 pages, I was likening it to my husband by saying, you know how some houses are really pretty with like beautiful architecture and little details, and you just want to look at them and fall into them, and then you have those ugly modernist contemporary houses that are basically just a cube and there's no soul to them. That's what this writing feels like to me. It's just like that house, that ugly modernist contemporary house. Just basics, functional, no frills, which is fine for some people, but it is not fine for me. I could not get into it.
100%. So when you add all that together,
Yeah.
and even when the point of the book of like, I didn't care about the eyeball. Like, honestly, everything that happened after it, I still didn't give a fuck. Like, not one point of this book did I have any feelings whatsoever as to what was happening or care. I guess I also have to admit something.
What?
I read this book in a day.
You sound like me in my senior year of English in college, writing a paper.
I finished an amazing book that gave me horrible book hangover. I finally read a good book.
Okay.
And then I just had a magical weekend that I just could not make myself sit down and read because I was just enjoying time with my partner, and it was just this beautiful thing. And then it came to be time yesterday, and I was like, I'd only read 7 pages, and I was like,
yeah.
Well, I am going to have to read 300 pages in a day. Okay, let's do it. And
I was forcing myself through the first 200 pages, and then that eye popped out, and I was just like, boom, I cannot read this story fast enough.
God, the eye pop out was so stupid, though.
It was so gross.
It was
so gross.
Where
it was
you
so
have,
disturbing.
Okay, but was it Imaginary Friends? Is that the one we just read?
What are you
the
talking
little
about?
girl and the monster.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
What was the last book we read for the book podcast?
Was it Incidents Around the House?
Yes. So we're like incidents around the house when the little girl sits on the monster's lap.
Yeah.
Like that had a point to the story. The eyeball has nothing. No point whatsoever.
I thought it was important because it's something that differentiates Prime from Tamsin. And you can't take it away. Like there's no negating it. And it's visible. So it created finally the problem that they couldn't be interchangeable for one another. So I thought it was helpful for that. And it showed also how freaking disturbed Prime is. Like, I thought it was very ironic that, I'm trying to remember who was who, that Tamsin, the original, was one of the reasons she didn't want to tell Lachlan about Prime's existence is because she felt bad that Prime would be like strapped to a table and a vivisection and all those experiments. Meanwhile, that is exactly what Prime ended up doing to Tamsin when she made Tamsin be not. Is she did like the surgery on, she strapped her down, she yanked her eyeball out, and she did the surgery on her ankle with the scalpel without any anesthesia. Thank you. I mean, she tortured her. That was actual torture. And I hate torture scenes. That is my hugest pet peeve is torture. And I had to skip quite a few pages around the ankle scene. But I just thought it was funny how that was what Tamsin didn't want to happen to Prime. And Prime just had no qualms about doing it to her. So that was a more hardened version of Tamsin.
So I'm guessing that her psychological personality tests at the beginning were lies.
Maybe that was how she was at the beginning, but she adapted. I have a lot of questions about who Prime really is and where she came from. I didn't quite understand the ending.
Yeah,
that could be me. That could be me. I'm a little slow on the uptake sometimes.
I personally came up with a way better ending. Like, I actually think that I'm not going to share it on here because I might write a book with this ending.
Oh! You have to tell me later. I'm really excited now. I will tell you later.
But I came up with a better ending to this because I also agree that the ending. If you're going to write a book like this and you're going to go into all the details of the science and all the things going on, even if it's not based in any realistic scientific terms, you have to have an explanation and understanding behind what you're doing. And it was so hodgepodge together. The ending, the minute Lachlan finds Tamsin and whisks her away, from that point on, we dissolve into utter pointless stupidity of just like, all right, let's make it a little more interesting and let's do this, because Not only does she... Okay, rewinding a little bit. To explain for people who may be a little bit confused, because this is what I got from the ending.
Okay.
But essentially, this experiment that she's creating...
She who? Tamsin?
Tamsin.
Okay.
What I understand in the one sentence reference to what it is that she was trying to find a new way to send information to people that was like directly received by their brains. Like a new wavelength.
Tamsin was trying to do that.
That's what I understood.
I had no idea that's what was happening whatsoever.
I could be very wrong.
I thought the ending was just Tamsin. Wait, what did I... That Prime was the one who started it all somehow?
Okay,
like
hold
she
on. I'm
wanted...
talking about the experiment, though.
The experiment.
Yeah,
What
like the
experiment?
whole laboratory underground. Like what Tamsin was working on.
I thought she was just trying to measure stuff at home, like she knows what's happening
like,
at home.
At the very beginning, like they built this underground laboratory.
Yes.
Like what she's testing there. Like her whole job. Like what her job is.
Okay.
Because stick with me. So what I understood, her laboratory, like her job and her discovery that she was working on was to be able to send a signal directly from something directly into somebody without devices. That's what I understood in like the one sentence I read. I could be very wrong, but that's why it was underground, because they didn't want any interference. And I think that's why it's black, because they also don't want light waves to affect any of the outcomes.
Oh, interesting.
So, because of what they were experimenting on,
Okay.
someone in a multiverse
Okay.
was also doing the experiment. So it's very
Yes.
similar
Yes.
words,
Yeah.
worlds.
Yeah.
And somehow, by doing the experiment, they collided enough
Okay.
that a door
Door
opened
appeared.
in Prime's world,
Mm-hmm.
and she decided to go through it.
Okay.
And then their two worlds started messing up and colliding. And creating other doors in the ground and...
That is generally what I got, except the beginning part. I had no idea that might be why Tamsin had her underground basement lab thingy. I thought that she was just very dedicated to her work, because I did gloss over the first, like, 2 chapters because they were so fucking boring and scientific. I thought she noticed everything was sinking, you know, in the city, and then she came home one night and was like, my basement looks weird. And I thought she set up her own lab to measure it on the sly for some reason.
She did, but her
I didn't know
job
about the
was...
brain waves thing. I didn't know that was her job. I thought her job was
Yeah.
to measure the sinking city.
No, she had a job. That's why Lachlan was her, like, handler, because she was hired by the person that gave Tamsin all the money to make sure the experiment was going. And that's why they were worried. They created the ground to do what it was, but they had built the laboratory a year previous, and they're like, there's no way that my lab is what's causing this.
Yeah, I missed all that completely because I was so bored.
So
That's kind of interesting. I wish I had known that.
So that's why the ending is the way it is. That's why, like, a doppelganger supposedly of Lachlan comes through at the end.
Yes, yes.
Which I'm not entirely sure if it's because of Tamsin's proximity to things that are causing it, because she's the source, because Prime came through,
Interesting.
because no other door appeared until she was there, or if it was just happenstance, which I hate in a book. Think things through, people.
It makes sense, though, that Tamsin can be the conduit. Is that the right word? Because I was wondering something while I was reading. Another lingering question I have is that it was interesting that only Tamsin could see the new door in Lachlan's apartment. Was it the same in Tamsin's basement? Like, did Lachlan come down... When Lachlan came down to the basement to rescue Tamsin from the thing that she thought was Tamsin, did she see the door too? I don't remember. Like, did Tamsin be like, look, here's a door and this is where it came out of? I couldn't remember that or not. Or is it only Tamsin that sees these doors?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's unanswered or if I just didn't see it.
No, I don't remember if she saw it either.
Yeah.
I know, like, she makes the reference in her own apartment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why when Prime is pushed through at the end, the door disappears, because now we have equilibrium again in the world. You know, they're in their 2 different worlds. We have one in each one.
Okay, so they're balanced.
The multiverses get pushed apart
Separate.
wherever they are connecting. Kind of like Think
So if
Everywhere,
Prime
Everywhere
had-
all at once.
So if Prime had never gone through the door, And
never
Tamsin,
would happen.
it never would have happened because Tamsin couldn't open the door for some reason. She was on the receiving end. The only way it could open was from the other world.
Or Prime opening it, maybe? Because I don't remember who opens the final door at the end. Is it Prime or...
I don't remember.
Which is an interesting correlation because essentially what Prime says at the end is she had... Rewind. So Tamsin makes a comment all the time, which was just repetitive and ultimately so fucking stupid, drill my eyes out. Is how she's like, what would it take to open the door? What would it take to open the door? What would it take to open the door? And I'm just like, shut the fuck up. And then at the end you have Prime being like, well, I opened the door. I had the courage to open the door.
Yeah.
But I still don't understand how their experiment created this multiverse crossover and how any of this fucking happened. And I'm not okay with it.
I don't know either.
But I'm just annoyed.
Even if she put it in there, I probably wouldn't have understood it anyway. So I've just accepted not knowing how it happens because that's how it is with me in sci-fi. My husband always has to pause movies and explain things to me. So I just kind of like, there's another thing I missed, and I just closed the book and went on with life.
Well, something you didn't miss that has nothing to do with science. But I was very uncomfortable and did not enjoy at all any of the Lachlan part of the book when she was living with Lachlan. Like, what the fuck was that?
Was Lachlan dressing her up in like 1950s housewives outfits?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think that she did provide some more feminine quality clothes that were not Tamsin's general style.
She mentioned something about that.
She did feel like she was being used again, but I'm just sitting here like you're supposed to have some sort of connection, but you only make one foot touching reference, a brush against at the beginning of the book, when we're supposed to believe that there's some sort of connection between you two. And also, like, why would Lachlan, like, you're saying Lachlan has a fucking fetish or some weird bullshit?
Yeah, that
like,
part I didn't get. I liked Lachlan a lot up until a certain point. Like, I knew there was more to Lachlan, so I could feel like a tension between those two. I figured something would happen romantic-y with them, or lustfully, whichever it happens to be. Between Lachlan and Tamsin. And I actually really liked when Lachlan stormed in and kind of saved the day and picked up, like the heroine, the hero takes out the heroine and stuff like that, and was showing the softer side of Sears, the softer side of Lachlan and stuff. But then I got very confused when they started making out. And Tamsin was like, why would we go to the bed? And then Lachlan was like, oh my God, you have no agency. But... Ugh. And then Tamsin said something about, like, isn't this what you wanted? And Lachlan was like, only in my fantasies or not in reality or something. I didn't understand that. Do you not want this in reality at all? I understand you not wanting to, like, get with someone who thinks they're 5 years old and has no voice about yes or no. That's great.
You're giving me, like, what was it, Poor Little Things? What was that movie? I
thought of that. Poor Things with Emma What's-Her-Face. Yep, I thought of you about that because I figured you'd have those vibes. So I didn't like that part. And then all of a sudden Lachlan seemed to be deadish. And then not dead because it was the doppelganger. Are they together at the end of the novel? I already forget.
Yeah, that's the implication. But it's just... I feel that Starling was really trying to go to the philosophical place with all of this information to really dive into the psyche of the people. And it just didn't work. There was nothing there. There's nothing to this book for me.
Well, I did feel like at one point when I was reading about the doppelgangers that there was kind of a metaphor to the whole thing. Everybody, a second version comes in and take over the boring, mundane, and stressful aspects of your job while you get to retreat from society and spend all your time doing projects that make you excited. And it makes it seem appealing and attractive to have a double. And Tamsin falls prey to that. And, I feel like the city is a metaphor for us. We're all sinking. We're all expanding our roles to take on more and more and more. It's so, yes, we're all buckling. We're all collapsing. But we stretch to fit more and more, losing structural integrity of ourselves. And then this double appears to take on things. And we can withdraw from the thing that feeds on us and focus on what we really want. So I like that because it was kind of freeing and captivating all at the same time. So that's what I read into it.
Yeah, the English major showing.
The English major, yes. I had to get what I could from this novel because the science stuff was totally lost on me. So I had to find some kind of metaphorical insight. So I can kind of see that working. And I don't know. I ended up liking the story once it moved along. I kept wanting to go back to it. I kept reading it. I wanted to find out what happened. I could have done without the gross surgical scenes. I liked the twist. I liked that Lachlan figured out who was who right away. I was worried that was going to be dragged on for a long time, like things tend to be in other novels, and I'm glad that wasn't, because that was annoying. But in the end, I don't know why Tamsin, newly discovering that she's Tamsin, called Prime to come rescue her. I would not go back to that fucking insane woman.
Can we just talk about how, like, nothing and none of the decisions in the book makes any sense whatsoever?
A lot of them did not make sense. I will give you that.
Because, like,
I will give
her even firing the guy at work, that was weird. And then, like, what was the big deal about her not showing up at work if her team was working on shit? And then why would she call Prime? Why would she even welcome this person into her house? Like, okay, you have a doppelganger. What the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah.
You're going to run and scream and call for help. You're not going to just be like, oh, well, let me put you in my bedroom. Let you go grocery shopping for me.
Yeah. I feel like just the moral of this story is, if a random door appears in your house, tell somebody. Run and tell somebody, because nothing good is going to come out of the brand new door that defies all physics and realities. Ugh. I did like that there were two cats for a while. That was kind of cute. But then I feel like one ate the other, and that was not as cute. So that
it was interesting. Like, one of them started losing, or Tamsin started losing her identity.
Yeah.
In it all. I thought that was interesting, but not really well explained. Why was she the one losing it versus Prime and all of that? What did Prime end?
I felt like Prime was sucking stuff out of her somehow.
Well, suddenly she wasn't. And that wasn't.
She was away from Prime. Because she was away from Prime. I thought it was.
I don't know.
I don't really know. I'm just guessing. Guessing.
Okay, my other comment is...
Yes.
This wasn't a horror book. It wasn't a horror book. I'm sorry. No.
I'm trying to debate if it was horror for me. There were definitely some aspects that were horrific. A doppelganger coming out of a wall... It's pretty horrific. Trying to take over your life. I would call this sci-fi horror.
I mean, that's fine, but it's sci-fi, and then add a little bit of
horror. Yes, I would say that.
This was shelved in the fucking horror section.
I would say sci-fi / horror.
But too far. This should not be in the horror section. Too far.
Yeah.
Put it in the sci-fi section. Make it like a really dark, gruesome sci-fi book.
This is a good speculative fiction book.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
I always am like, what's a speculative fiction title? Because it seems like a very ambiguous term. But this seems like a good speculative fiction.
It's not urban fantasy, because to me, urban fantasy is definitely like fantasy, vampires, werewolves, or like magic in our world.
Fairies,
like you can almost say like Harry Potter is kind of urban fantasy in the sense.
I could say that, yeah.
But to me, speculative fiction is where it's like our world is very much our own, but there's just some little tiny element that pushes it into like doppelgangers, opening doors, like a weird occurrence occurs, but we're still very much based in our own world with the rules that we've set up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I would agree.
But I've only had one tiny little tingle this year, I feel like, of horror scary.
I've liked quite a few titles.
Yeah,
Some
I know.
of them have been scary. Hopefully next season we'll have some good ones.
Yeah. I just was over Prime and the experimenting at the beginning. You're so right.
Yeah, it was too long, too much. I don't like the eyes. We didn't need to lose the eyes.
It's just, we're also gotten to a point in society, I mean, with it inundated as well, those type of tropey stories and plot points have just been already so covered. It's like when we read How to Make a Horror Movie, and we praised the fact that we didn't have to learn how the camera was made. The book was not about the camera being made. It is about how it's being used in its next stage. It's like people who are clamoring that they don't want coming out stories. Like, they don't want LGBTQ coming out stories anymore. They just want the character to be gay, because it's just like, can we just exist in this world? Because it's just an overdone topic. And I kind of feel that that's kind of something that happened with this book. Is it just having to deal with, oh, we see something weird, the very fact that Tamsin's research on doppelgangers was into the fictional world space, and that was her scientific research on how to deal with her doppelganger. Just no, so bad, so fucking bad. This is a debut style book, and this is her like third or fourth book, and this read like a debut book to me. This is her fourth book.
I read that We Used to Live Here book by Marcus Kluwer, who is a debut novelist, and his book is more, it's speculative fiction, definitely, and
Isn't
it's
that
about...
the house split looking one? I know, I
Yeah.
want to read that.
Yeah, and that has doppelgangers in it, and it deals
Don't
with
spoil it.
It's obvious. It's on the thing, but it's a much better done doppelganger story, and it deals with, I think I made a note, they talk about some kind of capgrass in this book, capgrass theory, where you think everybody around you has been replaced with a double. That's what really kind of goes on in the other book, the Marcus Kluwer book. But it's funny that it came up here, since I feel like doppelgangers seem to be the new trend in horror a little bit. And you remember in the Midnight Club, the TV show, the Irish girl who was in the wheelchair, that was a doppelganger story too. I mean, it was Christopher Pike, so it's much older. He's been around for a while. But I feel like doppelgangers are kind of the new hot thing coming out. What are you looking for? A dog or a book?
A lizard.
A lizard. Did you lose your lizard?
No, she's in her tank. It's just she made a noise on.
Oh,
She's supposed
okay.
to be sleeping. I'm probably keeping her awake by doing this. I know. She's like trying to hide her
If
head.
you give her the first 200 pages of this book, she'll fall right asleep.
No, just show her this and she'll have nightmares. Okay?
True. Yep, still the scariest thing.
So, have I changed your opinion of this book?
I
At
think
least
I'm
go
down
like
to
a
3
3.
stars. I'm down to 3 stars
I can't believe
because
you considered 5.
I can't believe I did either. That's why I was so eager to talk about this, because I was talking to my husband about this book in the beginning. He'd be like, "How's your book?" And I would say, "Oh my God, it's so bad, it's so boring. It's the house metaphor with like the ugly cubism house." And then one day he's like, "So how's your book going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's great." And he's like, "Oh, did you start a new book?" And I'm like,
Are you
"No,
the
it's the same
doppelganger?"
one." I'm like, "It's the same book." He's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "It just got good all of a sudden." He's like, "How long did that take?" I'm like, 200 pages. So I think I was so relieved to find something salvageable, because I just kept thinking of last year's last book, which was Rouge, which never had a redeeming moment. And I was just so afraid of closing out the year on another Rouge, and I feel like for me it didn't happen.
Okay, so you like this better than Rouge, but
I like this much better than Rouge. Really? Same? Worse?
I think I liked Rouge a little bit.
Oh, we hated Rouge.
I know, but I really hated this book too. Like, this is so fucking boring.
The whole thing with Rouge was a slog, and this, at least for me, turned a corner after the eyeball popped out. That's all I can say. I don't know why. Maybe it was just delirium, Stockholm syndrome of books. I just gave into it. I don't know.
I guess it could be equals, because it says that I gave Rouge 1 star as well, so.
Yeah, which is generous.
Okay, I have a last question for you, though.
Okay.
What do you mean doppelgangers?
I thought
What's in
there
the
was a
cover?
I thought there was a question of, well, it's probably to make it seem just more interesting, but I thought there was a question of, like, that more could come through at some point. I may be thinking of some other book or TV show where that happened.
Well, she kept doing that philosophical story or folklore story or some sort of story where someone was like, they had to give up their soul, and the last person left gave up their soul. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Which was a very weak tie-in for me. I really didn't understand why that's the title of the book, even though that little fable was in there. It didn't really tie it in for me. I don't think we should tag Caitlin Starling on this podcast episode. Because if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, we said plenty, but don't tag them on it.
I'm going to stay with 1 star, and you're going to change it to 3.
I'm going to change it to 3. I think it's the first time I've dropped a rating, this year at least.
No, because I guess I'm going to talk you back up when you're rating things like 1 star.
Yeah, that usually doesn't happen. But this one, you definitely talked me down, because I remembered how much I hated the beginning and how much things didn't make sense. I think I just was relieved that it wasn't as horrible as it started out to be, and the science talk dwindled.
It's just, I like science. I like science books.
I don't like
like this one. Also, I got a lot of like Resident Evil vibes to it too.
Oh, really? I don't know what that is. Really.
The underground lab stuff and the underground like workspace. That's very Umbrella.
I kept picturing Lachlan as Rhea Ripley when she first started on WWE. who I have like a little bit of a girl crush on. I don't know
You
why.
have so many girl crushes.
I do. There's something
Hitting
about
on me earlier.
I know. That's just I'm just wild that way. I can't control myself.
I know.
So that's why I kept picturing. So maybe that's why I liked Lachlan a little bit more. It's very possible.
Well, that's a wrap,
it.
friends.
That's
that
it.
is the end of season 2. Oh my gosh, we made it to the end of season 2.
Woo!
It feels monumental and exciting.
It does.
But don't worry, we're coming back.
Okay.
Expect new episodes starting January 7th. We already have, January 9th. Expect new episodes January 9th.
In January.
I don't know why that dates. But yes, the second Thursday, because the first Thursday is like the second, and we just didn't
We're not
wanna deal
doing
with
that. Mm-mm.
So, second.
No. We will be back with lots of writing updates and content updates and books, and we will be full of cookies at that point. So
Exactly. We'll be fat and happy, and we have so many exciting things happening next season that are already planned out.
Yes.
I'm stoked. CJ's stoked.
Yes.
We are hoping to mix things up a little bit, add in some interviews, maybe. You never know.
maybe. I think so. Maybe.
So don't forget about us. And if you are looking for content because you miss us so much, CJ has an amazing blog. I have linked it in the show notes. It is called A Well-Read Tart, where not only does she review books, but she makes book-inspired recipes to go with the books. It's so exciting.
They're very tasty.
Yes. And if you're looking for stuff from me because you like what I read, just go to the YouTube page for this, Dark Side of the Word. I have a ton of book reviews on there as well. And then I have even more back tiles at darksideoftheword.com. All of that's linked in the show notes, don't worry. And we will be announcing next season's first book club in January, so keep a lookout for that. I'll be doing it right away in January. But yeah, friends, that's the end of season 2.
It's the end of season 2. Everybody have a good holiday season, a good break, a good rest, eat lots of food, and we will see you in 2025.
I know. Oh, God.
I know.
I need the paper bag. But yeah, so have an amazing holiday. Eat all the food like she said, and have a great time, and just let your creativity flow in whatever form you have. But thank you so much, friends. If you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss any of the content. We're also audio only on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart Radio. And yeah, that's about it. Anyway, friends, thank you so much. We hope you have an amazing, wonderful, creative journey.
Bye.
Bye.